Okay, I'm going to start to figure out where the composting head is going to sit. Obviously, I'm going to reroute for these hoses because they're kind of in the way. And I have this cabinetry here that I think I'm going to keep in place. So this really does represent the furthest back that I can mount the composting head. I can certainly move this over a little bit, have room for crank. Don't have to. So what I think I'm ultimately going to do is make a panel that mounts on the floor there, covers up the hole for the most part, gives us a place to mount this down to. And I also might notch that out so I can lower it maybe 2 inches. I probably want to retain all this edge as support for the panel, and then I'll cut away around where the toilet's going to sit, recess that down. I shouldn't be doing this with a Sharpie, but whatever. Obviously, I would recess that a little bit wider, right? It gives me a pretty good idea where that needs to be. So if I do make a recessed platform for this to sit on, I'll probably cut it, something like here, and it'll drop 2 inches, then be flat. This can sit on top of that, and then as it comes up, it can overlap this here, the back lip. That's what's going to support it all the way around. And I'll make it so that you can remove the whole thing so you can access that through hole easily enough. I'm going to make a little template for a plate that will mount on here for this composting head. So here and here. That's out of the way. Make a simple template. Keep it simple, stupid. But this basically gives me the shape of the platform that I'm going to build, which will end up with a deep recess in it. But no need to get too complicated here. There's my approximate template. So I made this board out of 5/16 inch plywood. That's going to serve as the mounting platform for this composting head. There's about an 1/8 inch clearance all around here on the sides, which is good. So when I ultimately modify this and cover it with fiberglass, that'll end up wrapping and taking up that extra space. And it's going to block those cabinets for now, but in any case, that'll be the mounting base for this head. Just to get a general idea with a little bit of extra on the side of where this goes. Anyway. I'm going to cut out the floor so that I can lower the composting head about 2 inches. And I have marks around the perimeter of the composting head base. And then you can see I made marks a little bit further out that represent the thickness of the plywood that I'm going to use actually to make the walls of the lowered base. I need to cut out to that outer perimeter. Kind of repeat that pattern on this side. With this cut, I'm going to drill a hole so I have a place to start the blade. Why drill a small hole when you could drill a big hole? That'll do, dude. That'll do. Okay. I'll leave myself to work. Oh yeah, that's leather. Okay, this is basically the start of what we're going to do here. This forms the basis of the top flange. That's going to be well supported. It won't be just this. And then the composting head will sit on this, just sunk down in there a little bit. Reasonably like so. And I'm going to build basically a wall around here that attaches this in a lowered position to this. Initially hold it together and give it the proper shape. And then the entire thing will be fiberglassed over as one strong unit. Kind of put this down on here. It'll be something like this. Something like this. Not exactly, but reasonably close to that. So that it's a bit lower than if it was just mounted on top of this. Nails and glue. Coming together. Getting closer. This is kind of how it's shaping up. I still have more work to do here to fill in little gaps and stuff on the platform, but it's coming together. So that's kind of how it's going to fit in there. Not bad. Not bad at all. Love it. I use 5/16 inch plywood that I actually just had on hand. That makes it cheap. But I also like this particular plywood because it's a little rough, and so I think it'll absorb some of the thin epoxy very well. And you can see here, I filled in some of the corners here with some styrofoam that I just cut out and glued in. So that should be ready to accept the fiberglass overlay. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to put in some thickened epoxy fillets, which will give a nice rounded edge so that you don't have a sharp 90-degree turn here with the fiberglass as it's laid in, and that's supposed to make it a little bit stronger. So I'm going to do that everywhere here on these inside edges, and anywhere, you know, where there's like a bit of a crack or something because I built this thing like crap. I'm going to use up what I have of this, and then I'm going to switch to a different epoxy that's a lot cheaper but gets good reviews. To make the filling compound, I'm going to use some of this cotton flock that I got from US Composites. And this is just finely milled cotton that, when mixed with the resin, makes a nice thickened filler that we're going to use for our fillets. And I'm going to mix it backwards because I know that I have less hardener than I do resin. So I'm going to see how much hardener I have by first pouring it into here and then put 5 times that of resin. Not a whole lot. Let that drip out. Okay. So let's say we have 40 mil of hardener. So that would mean we need 200 milliliters of resin. And of course I didn't mark off 240, so we're gonna wing it. It's all good. Just have to be close. Turns out I was wrong, by the way. I actually had more hardener than I had resin, so it's gonna have a little bit of excess hardener. And that too should be okay. Probably just harden a little bit quickly. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Good stir stick. Now, the way you mix the flock generally is in a 2-to-1 ratio, so 2 parts flock by volume, loosely packed. Now I'm wondering, where am I going to mix this, right? Approximately 1 part. 2. I know this is going to mix down into here pretty well. By the way, this is fast resin, so we don't have a lot of working time here. Woo. I don't know about this 2-to-1 ratio nonsense. That seems excessive.
Cup does not look big enough.
No, it's not. Next time, I'll use a bigger cup.
You just dropped a huge chunk.
Okay. Here, scoop it up. All we're doing is mixing the resin and the flock together.
Like a...
Create paste. Okay. And what I want to do is dump that out onto this plastic here. And that way I can further mix it together. But also, I'll have an easy way to scoop it up. I don't know if I agree with the 2-to-1 ratio. Well, in any case, that's as much as I'm going to mix it together for now because I'm not going to be able to spread that. And this stuff really cures fast. Oh, let's see what we can do with this stuff. I did forget to put gloves on. That's going to make this fun later. And have very sticky fingers. I like this stirring stick though because the profile is like rounded. It's helping me spread it into here with a nice rounded edge.
That's good.
Yeah. It's gonna set up so fast. I wish I was wearing gloves.
Me too.
Well, that would have been nice.
Would have been, yeah.
Well, so much for the 2-to-1 ratio with the flock, Bubby.
Yeah.
But it's more like 1.5 to 1. That's pretty good. Let's see if this will fill this here.
What did you do while I was gone?
What do you mean?
I was gone for like an hour.
Yeah.
And you just now are pouring this stuff.
When I was preparing, I still had to, I made a filler thing here because I cut this notch too big. I let that set, and I got all the tools. I'm a good person. Don't you worry. Well, maybe I'll try doing the bottom. Why the hell not, right? Right? Yeah. Virginia agrees. Anyway. Note the use of decorative trim.
It looks like it's from Ray's nursery.
Yeah, it's left over from that. Good eye, Miss Thing. You have a very good eye. It's starting to thicken up. I have to make a bit more. Finish these fillets around here. But I honestly can't complain.
Well, as long as you're honest.
As long as I'm honest. Yes, it's turning into rocks. Let's call that done for now.
For now.
Okay, that's about setting up. So, fillets I think laid in there pretty nicely. And this stuff is, at this point, nearly set. I mean, it's pretty hard at this point, maybe a little tacky. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix up another batch, and I'm going to lay in those fillets again, and I think I'll probably start to saturate the wood with resin in preparation for doing some fiberglass work tomorrow. Okay, for my second batch of thickened epoxy, I'm going to use this US Composites 635 thin set epoxy with a medium set time 3-to-1 hardener. And these I bought with pumps that are actual equal ratio pumps. So the way you would dispense this obviously is 3 pumps to 1 pump. Pretty easy. This is a much cheaper epoxy system than the West systems, but everything I've read about it, it seems to get great reviews. I mean, it's literally like a third of the price of the West systems. So I'll be using this, assuming it goes well with this trial run, for all the fiberglass projects I have coming up in the very near future. So let's see how that goes. Sounds like 1 pump, 2 pumps, 3 pumps. Decent amount. I think I'll do double though for this use. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I've already shaken this, so that's 1. Since I did 6 here, there's 2. Okay, so it's well mixed. I'm taking another cup and put. I know normally you do a 2-to-1 mix ratio. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do about a 1-to-1 for now, something like that. Because I'm only going to use half this resin right now with the flock, and I'll save the other half for starting to paint onto the wood start to seal that up. I should have probably marked this, but that's approximately half-ish. That's fine. Mix this up in here. This stuff is not super easy to mix. You know what? I'm going to put a little more resin in there. I want it to be less than a 2-to-1 ratio. I want this to be a little bit thinner than the last batch. That makes me happy. And again, I'll just be putting it on this piece of plastic. Alright. And again, I could have grabbed some gloves, but I'm stupid. I really like the profile of these stirring sticks. Gives me that nice fillet shape as compared to a, all epoxy putty. This resin with the cotton flock is a little harder to work with, honestly. It's kind of thick. It's not really a putty. So what I try to do is lay down the fillet, and then I go back over it a few times and scrape away any excess. Okay. This is the kind of work I've never done before. Even growing up living at the marina, I didn't do fiberglass work. Not like, this kind of stuff. So, this is all new to me, and I'm figuring it out as I go, based on what I read and what seems to make sense to me. And anywhere where I screw up, just consider that learning curve. Look at that. The whole area I didn't fill up more. I meant to, come here, what I'm going to do when this is all cured, I'm going to go back over it, sand off anything that's obnoxiously high. As you know, I'm going to fiberglass over this entire thing. That's going to give it the actual strength. Take a look at the other side here. Turn it around. Let's just put a little bit of that in here just to see how it goes for impregnating the wood with this nice thin resin. I don't want to put on too much. I really just want this to soak into the wood. But anyway, it's all still going to get wrapped in fiberglass anyway. So, fun with resin. This is actually helping to smooth the fillets out a little bit. It's kind of fun. Cool, man. Another sloppy DIY by Duke. Okay, now that this is all dry, I cleaned this thing up with a sander and with a wood rasp, and got all the little high spots basically from the flock that was sticking up. They're all knocked down. Everything here is nice and smooth. And I did the back too. Relief this little area here where a hose goes through, and for the most part, these are pretty good. A little rough up here, but that's okay. Nobody cares. All right, I'm gonna clean this thing up, get all the dust off, and I think I'm going to soak this wood in some epoxy. Okay, so I'm not gonna do fiberglass just yet. I'm going to mix up some resin, and I'm going to finish coating the surface of the plywood. Why? Because plywood tends to absorb the epoxy, and I want to get that over with so that when I do start laying down the fiberglass, it doesn't suck all the resin into the wood instead of allowing it to wet out the cloth, right? So I already did that side for the most part. Now I'm just going to do the bottom and other edges and things like that. I'm going to let it sit, and then I can do actual fiberglass work tomorrow. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let's make sure this thing's primed. It is. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. I need to grab a stir stick. Mix this up nice. So far, I'm really happy with this 635 epoxy resin by US Composites. Mixes up nice, it applies nicely, and since it's a slower set epoxy, I just waited overnight, but man, it was nice and solid this morning. Seems like pretty good stuff. Okay. I got my chipper brush, and I'm gonna paint this stuff on. Now once I get this all laid on here, I could choose to start applying fiberglass on top in a second layer before this completely sets up, but I don't have to do that, and the way things are working out today, I probably won't do that. It's just fine to let it sit overnight and cure. Seems like time to go now. Occurs to me that if I want to be wrapping cloth around these sharp edges, I should probably router them. Yes, I'll be doing that. Fill no gaps. What do you think, babe?
Looks good.
Doesn't that look like the best composting head base you've ever seen?
Yeah, it's the only composting base head I've ever seen.
Composting base head?
Yeah.
Base head.